Ladies and gentlemen, this is Patrick at the Limiting Principle Podcast, another episode of New Derp Courses. However, it's not really going to be that much of an episode. It's just an update at James Lindsay. Guys, you'll never guess. You'll never guess what happened. James Lindsay has released another episode on New Discourses titled The Nazi Experiment, Volume 11, Dictatorship by the Reichstag Fire. Now, this is part 11 of James Lindsay's ongoing podcast, which he's labeled The Nazi Experiment, as he calls it. Now, this is technically it's the 12th edition of this because he had an entire episode about the Nazi experiment. Then he started the series. So he's got the first episode and then 11 additional episodes, all adding up to 12 episodes. And guys, let's see. How long is this episode of the Nazi experiment called Dictatorship by Reichstag Fire? It's an hour and 5 minutes. And honestly, guys, I can summarize it very quickly and very shortly. What James Lindsay has unearthed here is shocking. It's something you would never expect. It's something that flies in the face of everything we thought we knew about Hitler. According to James Lindsay, in volume 11 of The Nazi Experiment, Dictatorship by the Reichstag, Hitler was evil, a crazy person, and he did not like Jews, and he murdered all of them and a bunch of other people. Yeah, Hitler was a bad guy. That's crazy, right? It's crazy. Because I know that everything that I've learned throughout history, throughout school, and through all of the different forms of media that have been aimed at us discussing World War II, personally, everything that I saw from those, the thing I took away was, I'm not really sure if it was that Hitler was a good guy, but I wasn't exactly sure about the moral character of Hitler. And I watched Schindler's List. I saw him order the deaths of all those Jews. I've watched the copious amounts of other TV shows and different books and movies about Hitler, detailing how he was a murderous, treacherous, heathen, pagan psychopath that hated Jews. But I still wasn't really sure on it. But James Lindsay cracked the code, guys. James Lindsay finally proved that Hitler was a douchebag. Isn't that crazy? Groundbreaking. I don't know if you can tell, but I am being sarcastic. Why is James Lindsay constantly talking about Hitler? I get it. There are people on the dissonant right that flirt with the friend-enemy distinction, which is an idea by Carl Schmitt, who wasn't a Nazi, then he became a Nazi, and then I think he got kicked out of being a Nazi. I think he got kicked out of the Nazi regime or whatever. And I get it. James Lindsay does not like how people are talking about the friend-enemy distinction. Now, James Lindsay will say that these people are treating the friend-enemy distinction as a prescription, but they'll say, no. The friend-enemy distinction and everything that entails when they talk about it is actually just a description, that it is describing reality and how people are eventually broken down into friend-enemy categories when you are involved in politics. What is the friend-enemy distinction, you might ask? Well, I'm lazy, so I'm just going to use the AI overview. The friend-enemy distinction, established by grand jurist Carl Schmitt, defines the essence of politics as the ability of a group to identify political opponents who threaten their way of life. Unlike private, personal enemies, the political enemy is an alien, existential threat to the community. This dichotomy is fundamental to political action and distinguishes it from moral, economic, or aesthetic realms. Key aspects of the friend-enemy distinction: definition of the political. Schmitt argued that all political actions and motives can be reduced to this fundamental distinction: public versus private. The distinction does not refer to personal, private conflicts, but specifically to existential, group level, or national struggles. Existential conflict. An enemy is defined as a party that is, in a particularly intense way, something foreign and alien to one's own way of life, representing a threat to one's own existential existence, essential for safety. This distinction is seen as necessary for a group to ensure its own security, with politics being the organization of such group against others. That's basically what the friend enemy distinction is. Now, here's the thing. Are there people that are taking the friend enemy distinction and using it as a prescription? Sure, that's what the left does all the time, right? If you are against diversity, their definition of diversity, if you're against their definition of inclusion, if you are not for trans rights, and of course they're not rights, they're privileges, if you oppose DEI, if you oppose equity, you are an enemy. So the left readily uses this friend enemy distinction. Where would I apply the friend enemy distinction? I suppose it would be anyone who would support mutilating children, which basically is the entire left. So is Carl Schmitt describing an actual material reality? I don't know. Does this happen every time? Is that what it always boils down to? Honestly, I'm not aware of every conflict that has existed throughout all mankind. However, it does seem that there is something to the friend-enemy distinction. At the very least, if your enemies are abiding by the friend-enemy distinction, it would make sense to at least to understand the friend-enemy distinction, understand how it works, and then you could use that to defeat your enemies. Right? Everyone should read Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. Everybody should read all of this insane leftist philosophy, their modes of operation, how they operate in the world. Because in order to defeat the enemy, you have to understand the enemy. So that's why James Lindsay's been nonstop talking about Hitler. Just nonstop. He has created 12 episodes about the Nazi experiment, which literally just boiled down to Hitler bad. Well, no shit, James. Are there people that like Hitler? Yeah, there's neo-Nazis. And yeah, there's a lot of people that edge post about Hitler and, make funny, stupid little images of Hitler. And there are people that go, oh, well, Hitler actually had the right idea because he was really fighting against communism. And of course, a lot of these people also blame the Jews for everything. That's an actual thing, okay? But James, how powerful is that thing? If you were to create a movement based around white identity, to me, that white identity movement would struggle to gain an actual footing with the general populace if you adhere to Nazi aesthetics and if you constantly talk about the Jews, okay? If you talk to average right-wingers, conservatives, people that watch Fox News, if you go up to them and you say, hey, there's a lot of anti-white sentiment going around, they'll go, huh, yeah, there is, buddy. They seem like they hate us. And then you go, huh, yeah. Honestly, Hitler wasn't that bad of a guy, and it's the Jews' fault. The majority of those people will then look at you very strangely. And they're less likely to listen to you air your grievances about how you believe people with the color of white for skin are being treated. So to me, I think it's a tactical error to openly engage in Nazi posting, of talking about how Hitler actually had some good ideas. That's a part of the post-World War II consensus for sure, but I also have actual philosophical differences. I don't think you should kill anybody like that. I don't think you should target people for extermination. I don't think you should target the homeless and LGBTQ people for extermination. You should basically remove their ability to celebrate their depravity in public. You should get rid of all the holidays that are designed to essentially worship them. You should probably remove the right to get married. Give them civil unions. Hey, man, you could get some benefits if you're gay. That's fine. But then again, at the same time, marriage is between a man and a woman is a sacred act before the eyes of God. That's what it is. It is designed to bond a man and woman together so they can become closer to God, and then they can have a child to further the human race. Should we not incentivize straight relationships over gay relationships? I don't think that we should necessarily be incentivizing that kind of thing. But if you listen to these guys talk about Hitler, they go, oh, well, yeah, no, he did all these horrible things, and we actually should do that because we're devolving into degeneracy. It's like, well, no, we shouldn't be like Hitler. Hitler was a pagan. He was not even a Christian. He did not like Christianity. He thought it was an effeminate religion and that it was not strong. Hitler, if there's a great episode by Christian Eastern Orthodox priest, Father Trenum, and he talks about how Hitler was a loser. And it's great if you listen to it. He talks about it through an Orthodox lens, how Hitler was a heretic, right? It's great. Meanwhile, James is doing 12 episodes about how Hitler was bad. James, we all know Hitler was bad. Why isn't James talking about Larry Ellison? Larry Ellison is in bed with Donald Trump's administration. Larry Ellison openly talks about trying to enslave humanity and to force behaviors, something that Larry Fink says of BlackRock, who's now deeply involved with the World Economic Forum. Trump is essentially helping Larry Ellison build a digital technocratic surveillance state in which the end result could be humanity being enslaved. These are existential threats to mankind, and it's all happening before our very eyes. And yet James Lindsay is talking about how Adolf Hitler is bad because some guy named Groiper Jew rapist 69 420 1488 once ratioed James Lindsay. It is absolutely absurd. Absolutely absurd. But again, James, thank you so much. Thank you so much for bringing attention to how evil Hitler is, you know? It's just what he has become and where he has put his focus is, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be concerned with the rise of romancing Adolf Hitler, but you actually have technocratic transhumanists. You could basically say they are in the White House. They are near the most powerful man in the world, the most powerful man in the world. And yet, James Lindsay is spending his time making countless hours of podcasts that at the end of the 12 parts, all it comes down to is Hitler bad. Thank you, James. Thank you. Truly, truly groundbreaking stuff. And this was a short episode of New Derp Courses. It probably didn't even have a cogent narrative or a through line throughout the entire thing. I, basically just got triggered by James Lindsay releasing yet another episode of his ongoing series to really drive it home that Hitler is a bad guy. Shocking, James. Just bravo. Groundbreaking stuff. Anyways, that's all I got. Thanks for tuning in to New Derp Courses. And you guys will be seeing me soon. You'll be seeing me soon on the interwebs on a much more popular platform than the Limiting Principle Podcast. And I hope you check it out. We'll be talking about it later on in another episode, maybe breaking it down a little bit. And I hope you enjoy it. And thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to me rant. Take care.